Welcome to Yacht Femme, where we talk about the women that make the yachting industry. I'm your host, Andrea Tagliaferro. Learn who they are, how they got into yachting, and what they do today. Meet Sarah Flavell, the marketing manager at Damen Yachting, a renowned Dutch superyacht builder where she has worked for 7 years. Previously, she ran her own marketing agency. Her journey into yachting began unexpectedly at the London Boat Show 20 years ago. At Damen Yachting, Sarah and her team manage all marketing activities for their diverse range of superyachts, from promotional campaigns to collaborating with design and product development teams to forecast industry trends and tackle new markets. Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us back on Yacht Femme. I'm here with the amazing Sarah Flavell, marketing manager at Damen Yachting. I am so excited. She was so busy for the longest time with the Asia boat show, and now she's back. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm so excited. We met at the Palm Beach show earlier this year, and I am psyched for this interview. She has wonderful answers for us for our questions, and I cannot wait for you guys to learn more about her. So let's dive right in. And if you can tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and even how did you get into yachting?
Yeah, it's quite a complicated story, but also not. It's actually kind of based around a chance opportunity, how I got into yachting, and it kind of ends with a love story of how I moved to the Netherlands. So I work at Damen Yachting. I'm the marketing manager, and I've been with Damen Yachting for about 6-7 years. And prior to that, I had my own marketing agency in the superyacht industry. And I ended up being here via a chance meeting at the London Boat Show many years ago, 20 years ago, which is way too many already because I consider myself to still be 30. But I was working at the London Boat Show for a water ski boat company, and I bumped into two family friends, and they had a design company for lighting for super yachts, which I didn't even know was a thing, by the way. I didn't even know that people specialized in designing light fittings just for super yachts. But they told me all about their company, and they took me out for dinner and introduced me to some yacht designers, and I was hooked straight away. And I got talking to them and eventually went to work for them in their sales and marketing department. And that's where it all started. And it was through that job, actually, that I met my now husband during the Monaco Yacht Show. And that took me out of the UK to Holland, where I've been since 2008.
That sounds, I know a lot of people tell this story and it sounds seamless. I know it takes a lot of growth to get to where you are now. So let's unpack that a little bit and go back to what company you work for and what exactly do you do as marketing manager at Damen Yachting?
Yeah, so we're a super yacht builder, and we build about 4 to 6 super yachts a year, all different types, from like our sort of very sophisticated Amel super yachts, also our Explorer and yacht support vessels. And I'm responsible with my team for all of the marketing for all of the different yachts that we build. So that's basically everything from promoting the boats themselves to working with the captains and crew through the build, to really looking at how to position our products, working with our design teams and our product development teams. Also to look at what trends are coming, what forecasts, what can we expect 10 years from now, which markets are upcoming, how do we tackle the Asia market? It's kind of so diverse, it's everything.
Actually, I would love to know a little bit about that because it just happened, but let me ask back about the Asia boat show in a second. I know you already described a little bit of what it means to do your role, but if you can go a little bit in more detail of what it would be sort of a day in the life, it seems like it varies, but how best you can describe it.
Yeah, it's pretty varied, I have to say. But for days when I'm actually in the shipyard, it's all about working with the team, running the team, coming up with creative campaigns, looking at what tasks we have, getting organized for upcoming boat shows. So sometimes it's very practical, and it's kind of sitting down, checking copy, coming up with content stories for our magazines or our brochures. When it's a kind of event time of year, when we have a big show coming up, then it's much more about being out and about. So going out to work with the team, getting everything ready for a boat show, going to visit our brokers, seeing what they need to make sure they've got everything to help us sell our boats, and talking to them about sales materials. But it can also be things internally. A big part of marketing, in fact, is also marketing ourselves and what we do and build within the company. So there's a lot of work with different departments to make sure they're also up to date with what's going on and why we do things. So yeah, to say a typical day is a difficult one. It's not a 9 to 5 job, but it's a lot of fun.
Well, it looks like a lot of fun. That's you guys are one of my favorite booths to visit at every show. When you talk about internal marketing, and I think I was talking about this with someone else in your company, that you guys get to go to a lot of shows, and you definitely have a pulse on all the trends and everything, where where the company is going, what are they doing, because you do have a hand in all those moving pieces. How many people are working in the company that you also have to brief with your internal marketing, so everybody is cohesively working on the same goal and they actually know what you guys are doing?
Yeah, so we actually have 1,500 people here at the shipyard working on different projects. It's huge. About 500 of those are fixed employees, but we have a very kind of open policy at Damen Yachting. It's all about transparency, and we base everything around 3 goals: teamwork, fun, and delivering on our promises. And the teamwork part is really, we can't build a boat without our co-makers. So without the suppliers, we can't build a boat without the captains and the crews and the teams of our clients. So these are also part of who we brief. So we have, of course, different layers where people are kind of given different bits of information, but we're very open and transparent. So something that we'll tell our employees, we'll also tell our suppliers. They're also part of our overall team. The fun factor is always a difficult one, because of course it looks like we're out having fun all the time, but there's a serious goal behind it. But we do believe that everything we do, we should enjoy doing. And we try and bring that also internally to make sure that culture really, really spreads throughout every single person here.
Yeah, it always feels like you're a big family when I go to the booth. Everybody, I know you guys are doing serious work and you have really serious clients. You're delivering to, I'm sure, very picky and detail-oriented clients. They're only expecting the highest of qualities, but you always have a smile, and seems like there's not a lot of stress, at least at the shows. Everybody seems like happy and light. I know you're doing a lot.
Yeah, but I think what we shouldn't forget, we're also a family business. So Damen Yachting is 100% family owned, and the family's really involved. So Rose Damen is very hands-on. Her father is still actively involved behind the scenes. Her brother is the CEO of the actual shipyards group. Her sister Annalise is also involved in the design. So I think that approach, where the family is involved, reflects in the company. And we tend to present ourselves and act as one big family. We've always said that it's a family company, family first. And that's the same also for all of our co-makers and our captains and crew. They really are part of the family, and our shipyard here in the Netherlands is a place that they can always call home too. So we try and make sure we emulate that wherever we are in the world, that wherever you find us, we're always the same. We're true to who we are, and that's important to us.
I know we're still going off script a little bit here, but you mentioned the boat shows, and I'm sure they take, you said, a lot of practicality. You've done this multiple times, so I'm sure there's like a really detailed checklist that goes on. But how far in advance do you start planning a boat show, for example, like the Monaco Yacht Show, which is, I assume, the next one that you also have, or you have?
So Monaco's our next. Monaco's our next big show, and we already start planning the next Monaco as soon as the first Monaco finishes. But really putting the hard work in started about 6 weeks ago. 8 weeks ago. So we now have all our campaigns ready. We know exactly what we need to kind of create content wise, asset wise, materials. But as with, I think every boat builder will have this, there's never a guarantee as to which boats we can get there. So that's always a bit of a stressful gamble. Yeah. So it's very, at the moment, hopefully, we've potentially got 5 boats, but the week before, if a client gets a charter or a boat sells, or they suddenly don't want to go to the show anymore and they say no, there's not much we can do about it. So it's always a gamble of kind of how many berths do we book, what size, will we get the boat there? They've committed, but it's a difficult one.
Oh my God, that sounds very stressful.
Nervous. It's the one thing that makes me very nervous, because it's a huge difference between having one boat at a show or 5 boats, just in sheer logistics of how many people you need, yet alone all of like the key decorations and organization of events and tours and brokers and visits. So it is nerve-wracking right up to the last minute.
I'm already nervous for you, and I'm just going over there to enjoy myself. I actually always wondered why, when you go to the Monaco Yacht Show website, that seems like, of course, they do things a year in advance or even more for the next one, and they list the brokers, they list sponsors, but the boats are never there. So
No.
I didn't know, because you can't promise who's going until.
No, exactly. And last year we had a boat that cancelled literally 10 days before the show. But luckily we had another boat that we knew that was going to be in the area, so we could negotiate with them to kind of say, look, we've got a berth, do you want to be in the show? And they came to our rescue, which was amazing.
Well, I'm happy you guys figure that one out. But as you say, there's so many yachts out there, and so that was
and that's a big advantage for us. We have such a huge fleet of yachts that, you know, we at least have that to tap into. But persuading owners to put their boat in the show for a week is always difficult.
Oh yeah, no one's dying for other people to be on their boat. I'm shocked.
No, exactly.
I know you spoke a little bit already about the company, how it is a family business, and you even named each position that they have, at least the father is still around. But if you can tell us a little bit more about the company itself and your work with them.
Yeah, so the company, like I said, we're part of the Damen Shipyards Group. So we're kind of our own independent division responsible for all of the yacht building activities. But we're ultimately part of the Damen Shipyards Group. And the Damen Shipyards Group purchased or acquired Amels back in 1991. So they took over that brand, but retained the name, actually. So they didn't give it the Damen name, they retained Amels. It was already established in its own right. And that was really the start of yacht building for them. And then they came up with this very kind of innovative idea, which a lot of people in the industry thought was absolutely crazy, which was introducing standardized semi-custom platform building in the super yacht sector. And that was when we introduced the Amels limited editions. But it turned out to be one of the biggest success stories of all times. I mean, we delivered 25 of our 180-foot model, which was unheard of in those days. People couldn't believe that you could sell so many of the same design. And that really basically laid the foundation for the division itself to develop more and more different product brands. So you saw the move then to yacht support, to have a dedicated purpose-built support vessel, and then also using that sort of Damen experience for the more commercial platforms, bringing that into the yachting side as well. So all that knowledge and expertise has really enhanced the yacht building side of it as well. Yeah, and then as a yacht builder, like I said, we deliver 4 to 6 boats a year. We have more than 20 yachts in build at the moment. And we have our largest Amels here ever built, 120 meters here at the shipyard. It's huge, much bigger than we built before. So it's something very different for us.
Just for people to get a sense, I can't even wrap my head around that. How many cabins is that, or how many crew? Just
I think, yeah, number of crew that will be on there is in excess of 40, and it's about 4, so it's 480 something foot, I think, this boat, but it fills an entire building shed. It is absolutely immense.
That's so exciting. When is it planned to be done, to be finished?
Yeah, completion, so it's set for delivery the end of next year, maybe early 2026. But yeah, super exciting. She arrived here just after Monaco Yacht Show last year. She's inside, she's being worked on, and it's so impressive to see. I'm so excited for when she comes outside.
I can imagine that. What an exciting big unveiling for you in the company. You mentioned earlier that Amels was one of the products that Damen Yachting, the shipyard, bought. Can you also just give us a brief overview of what other products are there?
Yeah, so we have Amels, which is our flagship product brand. Then we have Explorer. So those are our crossover Explorer yachts, basically the ultimate kind of combination of a luxury super yacht that has the autonomy and capability to go anywhere in the world. So for 30 days, you can travel to the remote corners, you can head into ice, you can be as far off the beaten track as you want to, but you still get complete luxury. So you have all that space to take everything with you that you need, but you don't have to kind of be hardcore expedition ice queen to enjoy it. And then we have our yacht supports, which are our purpose-built support vessels. And those are really exciting because they kind of started off as a tender and toy carrier for people to add to their fleet, so they didn't have to size up. So you could basically add a support vessel to a 55-meter super yacht without needing to instead sort of go for a more expensive 80-meter. But that platform's also developed a lot, and now we see people using it for some super exciting missions and visions, like research science, using them for disaster relief. It's really fantastic to see how owners have really taken that platform and made it their own.
How do you stay in touch? Do you stay in touch with the boats and the course and the trips they do?
Yeah. So we have, combination. So we have our customer care team who also are responsible together with the services, also for refit. So we have a really good relationship with lots of our fleet, with captains. We make sure that via the crew, we keep that connection going. But then also the owner. I mean, each owner is different, of course. Some are very, very private. Some we never see or even know who it is potentially in marketing. But others are very open and want to tell their story. So it's about finding the balance and finding the right owner for the right story. Yacht support clients we've seen are really, really kind of keen on sharing their experience, and they want their story out there. And others are more private, but they're happy for via the eyes of the crew, kind of talking about destinations that they've been to. That for them, that's enough. So it's really finding the balance. But I love it when an owner will tell us all about exactly how they want to use their boat and why. It's brilliant. For me, that's the gold dust of marketing.
I love that, the gold dust of marketing. You definitely are started as a copywriter, didn't you?
Yeah.
Can you tell us? I know you've been have done a lot before, even owning Damen Yachting. You've done different parts of the boating industry in itself, but I don't know if it's hard for me to ask this, but can you name your biggest accomplishment in yachting, at least to date?
Yeah, I think it's really difficult one, actually, because every step through my career I've had kind of highlights where it's been an accomplishment. So sort of when I was working for Savage Lighting, it was really about that kind of accomplishment of breaking into the industry and being kind of in a new network, creating myself kind of my own career within that. And then when I moved here, it was like learning about having a very technical role. I worked for an AVIT company. I found myself doing business development for AVIT. I knew nothing about audio and video when I first started. I literally didn't. So I was really proud that I could learn that very quickly. When I worked for myself, I had my own company for 10 years. That was a big achievement for me, really kind of establishing myself and getting to work with so many different companies, learning a lot. But I think now looking back, it was definitely Monaco Yacht Show last year, kind of being responsible for that with my team as my first ever main boat show, main Monaco, our biggest kind of event of the year, and getting through that with boats, but with the team and everything. I think I was so proud of everything that we did, how we presented ourselves, the different campaigns we ran, how the team performed. It couldn't have been better in my eyes. So yeah, I think for that I was very proud of.
Well, I cannot wait for Monaco and visit you guys this year. But I also know that Damen Yachting, I know it started before you joined the company, but or not, was the first one to have a yachting initiative about having these space for women or women getting together at the shows. Can you tell me a little bit about that as well?
Absolutely. And something I'm really excited to talk about, because that was one of the first initiatives I got to work on when I first started working with the company. And basically it came from an idea from Rose that she was really wanted to support more females working in the industry. And it started in 2019, actually, as an article that I wrote for Finest Moments, our magazine. And we were interviewing different females in the industry. And we use the idea kind of, basically, we have female first officers, female brokers, females that were in a position that were predominantly always considered a man's role in our industry.
Yeah.
And we were talking with everyone, was like, oh, we should do this more often, get together, have a platform. So we used that opportunity and thought, well, why not? Why don't we, during Monaco Yacht Show, create this space where we dedicate an hour of the show to providing this kind of clean, calm, and free space where women can come together and inspire others. Because knowing sometimes that there's more females in the industry is enough just to really give people confidence to think, actually, no, I can also step up and do that. So that's how it started, literally as a kind of networking way of inspiring people. And it's kind of grown. Obviously, we missed a couple of years with COVID, but we've now made it our absolute sort of mission and vision to have this dedicated corporate initiative to providing a networking business platform for females, not just to inspire others, but also include others. So it's not just about people in leadership roles. It's also about creating a network and a platform that inspires and encourages other females to step up into the industry. For those that are thinking, oh, this is a man's world, actually saying, no, it's not. There's so many opportunities out there for you. And that's something we want to keep promoting and pushing. And I think it's fantastic that other people are setting up more initiatives and continuing that for us, because for me, the more people that do that, the bigger the whole movement gets as a whole. And everyone's spreading the same message. So for me, I think it's fantastic.
I I was lucky enough to go to an event in 2018 in Monaco. I was walking, I think people were setting up their stands and Rose was in the booth and she told me about the breakfast the next day. I felt so honored to be around so many amazing women in the industry and getting to meet so many others, because everybody's always running around. So having them all there, at least for a moment before, I don't remember if it was before the show started or right when the show started, before everyone got really busy with their agenda at the show. So it was such a valuable thing. So I got inspired and I also replicated recently. But it was the same thing you said. I remember when I created Yacht Dame, I had someone run in 2018, the year after I created the platform, someone run off the yacht to tell me, I've been following you. I recognized you because of the dress, because I saw what you were wearing on Instagram stories. And she was listening and she said, I didn't know other women occupied those spaces. I thought they were only reserved for men. I thought as crew, I could never leave being crew. And then so many women had different paths into land-based roles. So that was like, oh my God, there's a need. And I'm so happy with what you guys been doing, not only at the shows, but also at home. I see the events continue, at least internally and for other women, which is really
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's been a key thing for us. It's not just a boat show thing. This is something that we also do internally. We also make sure that we're continuously looking at how we support and grow the initiative, and also bringing it to other locations. So we recently had one in Hong Kong during the Super Yacht Summit, and just to be able to create that and tab it in, so much fun, but so good that we can do that and really keep growing the community. That's what it's all about. It's about inclusivity and diversity. So let's do it, as far as I'm concerned.
I actually felt that was when I saw the Hong Kong one on your social media. I felt it was an anchor event. Like I saw that and I was like, I want to be part of that so much. It would definitely be a draw for me to maybe explore a boat show that wasn't on my agenda that year, just to be part of that experience, because it really looked amazing. I know we're short on time, at least right now, so we have a few more questions that I want to get through. Where do you see yachting going? You've been around for a very long time. Any things that you have seen that have evolved, or any future trends that you want to share?
Yeah, of course, we can't ignore the trend in terms of how sustainability is going to play a big role. I actually think that's going to play a big role in the development of yachting, but also how this next generation comes in. And what's the next generation of yacht owners going to look like? How are they going to want to use their boats? What are going to be the key deciding factors? And I think those trends are the ones that I'm most interested in at the moment. Also thinking about, how does that in turn affect the use of the boat? How big should a future boat be? What should the spaces be like? Will it be more open plan living, that's kind of in line with trends that are from residential side? Will we see people actually wanting to have the freedom to travel and explore more, and therefore they need to create these kind of separate areas on board where they can have a home, an office, and family, everything together, but also have that freedom to separate it. So I think those, definitely kind of looking at those trends, that's what excites me the most. How that's going to impact yacht design, I don't think we know yet, but the fact that people are taking more interest in spending more time on board is always a positive thing. And especially if we look at sustainability and how people can integrate science and giving back to society from the super yacht sector, I think we'll definitely see more of that as well.
I I actually started seeing that trend. I think one of the many trends that you mentioned, of course, sustainability. I'm so happy that there are now so many forums and people keep talking about it. We do see that the younger clients and the younger owners, this is something, I don't know if because they're younger and they cut the trend before they got into yachting, that's really important for them, especially in the building it of what materials and even your sustainable practices. That's really huge. I That could be a whole interview in itself. So I don't want to.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Huge topic.
Huge topic there. But also, I only started seeing how families wanted to integrate from home offices and to use these vessels, not just recreational, but also living spaces, during COVID. Did that start before COVID, or and just COVID just, like really put a spotlight for you guys to move there, or that just changed the whole interior dynamic?
I think there's two sides to that dynamic. I think one was that sort of the introduction of explorer yachting, so creating boats that could, building and designing boats that could go further for longer with autonomy, with everything on board. That was kind of one side that kind of opened up the idea to actually you could spend more time on board. And I think that was the start of it. But I think COVID was absolutely the trigger. We saw such a change in how people use their boats. All of a sudden, owning a boat was actually the one thing that gave you the freedom to not be stuck at a fixed address. Even though it was a fixed address on the water, the location was not always fixed. So I think that really was a catalyst towards people thinking, how do I want to use my boat? How can I make this a workspace and a living space and a family space? And how can I protect my family? How can I make sure we've got something safe so we're not dependent on the rules of others, for example? So I think that had a big influence and has really triggered people to think differently. And we've seen since then that often owners have really changed what their priorities are on board. So kind of making sure certain spaces, certain facilities, and also crew well-being, giving that more priority. And I think that's also triggered from COVID, because lots of crew had a really difficult time during COVID. They were either stuck on board somewhere and they couldn't leave, or they were on board with owners for months on end, which you would never normally have. And suddenly the crew living spaces become actually a priority for the client, because the customers also think, the client and the owners thinking, okay, actually, if we're stuck on board and we're struggling, the crew are also stuck on board. So I think it was a positive thing in many ways for really pushing people to think differently.
I hadn't thought of them understanding the importance of crew well-being, but really when you're now stuck with them daily for such a long period, you sort of start breaking those barriers of like client and the people that are working for you, because these are now part of your family. You see them daily. So it's like kind of inevitable, at least for some people. And then if you're happy, you want them to be happy too. I don't know if that also comes into the mix, but yeah, that's something I hadn't thought of. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it added an interesting dynamic.
I always want to know, can you tell us something that we don't know? And what I phrase it is more like, what won't I find about you on LinkedIn? So a hobby or something you would like to share.
Yeah, well, and actually, I'm not, well, LinkedIn, actually, if you maybe on Instagram, you might find it, but LinkedIn, I'm just thinking, well, because I was about to say, actually, I speak Dutch, and nobody ever expects an English girl to speak Dutch, but I do speak Dutch. I made an effort to learn the language when I moved here, but maybe that is and can be seen on LinkedIn. I'm not sure. I own a black Labrador called Monty. He's my absolute favorite thing in the whole world. And I'm a very, very keen tennis player. So it's my absolute passion. I love it. And sometimes when we go to boat shows, we'll make sure some of the team play a game of tennis before the show gets started.
Where do you go and play tennis? Like at these
So
boat shows?
in Palm Beach, Rose and I played against one of the captains of our boats that was at the show, and we just hired a court literally, and we turned up and we borrowed tennis rackets from the boat, and it was, I think, 7 o'clock. It was ridiculous. It was early, but it was like the only way to fit it in. So, but we like a bit of good competition and healthy sport.
That sounds like so much fun. I once remember being in a tournament in Aruba. Tons of us that were also from the same country club were there at the same time, and there was such wind that you would be waiting for the ball, and then it was like a few meters to the right, that's where it landed. We just stopped. It was just ridiculous to throw the ball back and forth. No one was gonna win. That's so fun. You're also planning to play tennis in Monaco? Do you try to do that every time?
Monaco we've not done yet, and this year I can't because I've just recently broken my elbow and had it operated, so my tennis racket is hung up for the time being. So I'll leave that to the professionals at Wimbledon, I think. But Monaco is a bit difficult because it's such a busy few days. It's kind of not quite the time, you know. I think we'd be playing at 5 a.m. if we wanted to try and fit it in, and I think all sleep hours are precious during Monaco.
I don't know who I told that recently, that for Monaco, for me, this is a marathon. You eat well, you hydrate, and I even have facial hydration masks for every day, because it was day one when someone told me, Andrea, you look tired. It was 5 p.m. So the day wasn't even halfway done. But yeah.
It's an absolute marathon sprint. Well, it's also a sprint at the same time. You're doing everything. I mean, and physically, for your fitness levels, the number of steps, it's like you say, kind of like preparing. It's like you also need to train the weeks in advance, get some few extra calories in, because you might not even get to eat on the day. It's everything you can do to prepare is all good. Mental, physical, strength training, the lot.
I actually always lose weight in Monaco, so I'm looking forward to it, because by the end of the day, the dress actually fits better. So I don't complain about that.
It's probably the only time when we all go somewhere where that happens.
Something that happened at the Palm Beach show at a YPY event was everyone was comparing how many steps they did during the boat shows. And I thought it was like, now instead of competing with other things, it's like, how many steps did you did? I was like, our mentality has changed so much of what now that's the goal. But
I was going to say, because the goals of shows used to be like, what time did you get, like what time are you out till, or like how many parties did you go to? Now it's like, how many steps did you manage? So
exactly. So there is a big change. I know this is now running long on my end. I extended our time because I just didn't want to cut the conversation short. What advice, this is my favorite question. What advice would you give yourself if you were starting in yachting like tomorrow?
I think I love this question, and it made me really, really think, actually, because it's quite difficult, because I often give advice and people ask for advice, especially new members of the team. But if I was giving the advice to myself, it would definitely have been to kind of have the patience, because it doesn't matter how long it takes you to kind of where you want to get to, and you might not even know where that is in the beginning, but just kind of trust the process, have the patience, and be willing to go through the different motions, try all different jobs, because you will get to what is your dream job eventually, and you might not know what it is yet, but one day you will wake up and be like, oh my god, this is what I was meant to do. And sometimes you don't always know it, and you don't kind of know why, or you're jumping through these hoops to get there. But I think have the patience just to trust the fact you will get where you're meant to be.
Trust the process. Yeah, and I like when you said you don't know where we're gonna go, because sometimes you think this is your dream job, and then you keep growing, and it wasn't. There's just something else that was waiting for you.
No, absolutely. And I remember when I first got my job here, which I thought was my dream job, to work at Damen Yachting, and I loved it, and I just always loved being in a shipyard. You drive through and you're thinking, oh, I wonder what yacht's behind those big doors, and you see boats come out. And I was a communication specialist, so I was doing a lot of copywriting, and I loved copywriting. But then I got promoted to being PR and communications manager, and I was like, oh, I love also working with the media more. And thinking about the strategy behind the communications. And now I have this role, and I think, and this is what I love, because I really love managing a team, and I love seeing the team develop and grow and what we achieve together. And going through those processes, even within Damen Yachting, has taken me a while to realize this is what I want to do.
Thank you for that. Trust the process. You never know where you're going. And I actually also really loved working at the shipyard. I come from a construction background. My parents used to build commercial and residential back in Venezuela. And one of my favorite things was actually putting the boots on to go to the construction site. Like I felt that was like there, like when things were being built, instead of designing them as an architect in the office. Now, I don't know, there was a very different feeling, and I enjoyed it. Not everybody enjoyed putting the boots on and going into like the heat that was, construction sites in the tropics.
I can imagine.
With the hat on, with the helmet on. So there's a lot going on for Damen Yachting for yourself. Is there anything you want to share that we should be paying attention for? Anything that's coming up, or even how should we follow and stay tuned for upcoming events or upcoming news?
Well, to stay tuned and to keep an eye on what's going on, please keep an eye on all of our socials. We're pretty good at making sure everything's out there. And also, of course, we're a very open and accessible team. If you want to know where we're going to be, please reach out and ask. The information should be on our websites, but also we love nothing more than speaking to our kind of all of our network in person. So please do reach out and just ask the question, where would you be? Obviously, we've got Monaco Yacht Show coming up. I really hope we're going to be able to show for the very first time an Explorer at the boat show, but we have to, fingers crossed, hope and see. But we've got lots of exciting things coming up. Like I said, we've got the 120 meter in build. We've got a few AML 60s that will be being delivered as well soon. And of course, we've got our AML's limited editions 80, which will be delivered next year, the very first one. So for me, that's very exciting.
Thank you. Definitely follow along their social media. I love seeing their Instagram and their LinkedIn as well. Those are my two favorite platforms, but they are on all the other social media platforms as well. Sarah, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for your time, and I cannot wait to see you again in person.
Oh, and thank you so much for having me. And likewise, I can't wait to see you in Monaco at our Women in Yachting event.
Thank you so much for listening to Yacht Femme. If you like what you heard, please like, subscribe, and comment. Your comment will help us reach a broader audience. And don't miss the next episode. Bye!